Welcome to the Ranch and Table Podcast, where we discuss all things related to our Texas ranch and our Ranch to Table restaurant located in downtown Rockwall. I'm your host, Lee Wells. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Ranch and Table. I'm Lee Wells, and I am so thankful that you've joined me today. I am going to talk to you about a couple of things going on this week, and I've got a kind of a different podcast for you, just keeping it fresh and different. Today's episode is brought to you by my friends at Sterling Tea. They are great folks doing a great job. Some of the best tea you will ever have. We are privileged in Rockwall to have such great professionals doing the work that they do, providing all over the nation the best tea that you can drink from China, India, Egypt, all around the United States, all around the world. They source it, they bring it here, repackage it, and blend it into flavors, and it is amazing. Just hundreds of flavors and hundreds of places that you can get it, but you can buy it online at sterlingtea.com. And so I encourage you to go do that and then use your Wells 20, and that will give you 20% off your whole order. So thank you for joining me today, and thank you, Sterling Tea, for always having our back. We appreciate you. I did something different last night that I've never done before. I didn't know what to expect. I took my wife to Jordan Peterson, Dr. Jordan Peterson, event. He was in Fort Worth at the Dickies Arena, and he sold it out, which is crazy. But he's got a good following, and he's a very intelligent man. If you don't know who I'm talking about, Jordan B. Peterson, author, psychologist, he's got a huge following on a podcast, just very big. And his clips are very big on TikTok and Reels, and just very sought after right now. Just a guy that is kind of an interesting combination of a person. He's a Canadian, and he is a Canadian liberal, educator, professor, tenured professor, which is now canceled, no longer professing at the college. But he has come to a place in his life and understanding that values matter, rules matter, truth matters. He has studied the Bible now extensively, has a lot of it memorized. It's an interesting person who claims to be a liberal psychologist, philosopher, and yet values the Word of God, the text, and the principles there. He is very, very straightforward. If you're not familiar, let me just tell you, he's very straightforward on correct parenting, the right way of parenting your children, disciplining them in a way where they become great citizens and they are not a burden on other people that are around them. He talks about various things that we would consider very, very conservative, but it's because he's come to the realization that that is the best for society. That's the best solution. So a lot of us are Christians. A lot of us that listen, I'm sure there's probably a good percentage of you that are Christians, as I am. And we start at a different place. We start with the Bible as the inspired Word of God, and that means that's why we follow it, and that's why the principles are good. He comes from the other side of the world where he says, I don't know about all that. Let me test it. Let me prove it. And then comes over years of study to the conclusion that, yes, this is the right way. Yes, this is the good way. And so it's interesting to me. He's not going to be my pastor. He's not going to be my spiritual leader. I'm not looking after vain repetitions of men and psychology and all of that. Okay, so I'm not looking after the philosophies of men. Okay, I just went to to my good old Christian buddies, my Baptists and Pentecostals out there, I'm not looking at this as spiritual guidance, okay? I just enjoy listening to intellectuals speak, and it's interesting to me. And so this man is interesting to me because he holds so many values for a different reason than I do, but yet we still agree on the values. And so that's interesting. So Dr. Jordan Peterson, if you've been to one of his events, it's cool. I've never been to anything like this. I've been to concerts. I've been to, plays. I've been to the theater kind of stuff. My kids are involved in that stuff. So I've been to things where I'm expecting, a 3-act play. I've been to the opera. I've been to the symphony. I've been to some things in my life. I've never been to an event where it's an old school, I guess you would just call it philosopher's talk is what it would be. He literally gets up and, well, first you get there and a guy comes out and plays classical guitar for a little bit, kind of warms up the crowd, gets everybody sat down and quieted, and then a guy comes out and introduces Dr. Peterson, and then he comes on and spoke for I think it was 75, 80 minutes, an hour and a half. He just talked, and he began to talk about the concept. I'm gonna really concentrate an hour and a half down to just a few minutes and try to give you an idea of what he said and then give you my opinion. The big question that I'm going to answer today is, do I believe Jordan Peterson believes in God? That's really what I want to get to in a minute. I'm a pastor. I'm an authority on these kinds of things. So I want to get to that in just a minute. But he begins the evening by saying that there's a power in the spoken word. And he says that we call it logos. And so when we speak, we can create with our words. Now, I'm going to pause for a second and tell you I can't create a glass of water here with my words, okay? There's limits to what this means, and I'm going to give you this picture because I don't believe that Mr. Peterson is saying we can create a book or a hat or a shirt out of our words. I don't think anyone's saying that. We can create realities. We can create feelings and emotions. We can create knowledge and pictures. We can create a lot of things with our words. And he begins by taking the first few minutes by saying that, and we were not allowed to record any of this, so this is purely from memory, and my brain was shot when I got in the truck last night after listening to him for 2 hours. But I'm going to try to recall some of these points to just show you kind of what happened. It was very interesting, a very interesting night, and I hope you enjoy this podcast. But he talks about the power of the words that we speak, and when we speak words, we create realities. And so if I were to say, and he didn't use this, I'm going to use this, okay? This is my idea of what he meant by this, is if I say something to someone like, man, you look amazing today. That shirt is a great color. Love that shirt. I have created a positive emotion that becomes appreciated in that subject, in that person, and probably responding with a smile and thanks, man, I appreciate that. And hopefully that comment makes someone's day better. And so what I have created with my words is positivity. I have created fuel to a friendship. I have brightened someone's day to a place where maybe they have a better day. So there's a reoccurring ripple effect of things that happen whenever we do something like that. Now, on the flip side, I could say something like, man, did you do something different with your hair? I'm not liking it. You shouldn't have done that, man. That's a bad look. And with just those same number of words that I said positive, I've now got him or her questioning our friendship, questioning, man, I did fix my hair different today, or I did get a haircut and it doesn't look good. And then you have a complete opposite amount of emotion in the different direction. And then you also have them questioning themselves, and it's a negative thing that you've created with your words. The words were still formed with air and vocal cords and still created by your brain and came out of your mouth, but the effect was different. And so he begins by saying that we can create realities and understanding with words and word pictures. And that's what he did for about an hour and a half, is he talked about things. He talked about perhaps he talked a little bit about you'll have to get the book or you'll have to go buy a ticket. And I'm not going to do this justice. I'm not trying to replicate what he did. I couldn't do that. He has a unique delivery and style, and it's pretty cool. But he begins to talk about dancing, and I grew up Pentecostal. We didn't do any dancing till you get married. But anyway, he talks about dancing. He talks about women want to dance. Lots of women want to dance, and the reason they want to dance. And now I've never thought about this because I didn't grow up dancing, but it makes sense. He says, first of all, can you move to the beat? Can you move to the music? That's a test, kind of. Are you clumsy or are you smooth? And then he goes on to say, now can you navigate us as dance partners through the crowd of people on the dance floor? Now, women may not know that they're doing this. He's a psychologist, and he's breaking this down in an interesting conversation. He says, and now you're moving about to the beat, to the music, as you're guiding your partner through the dance floor and avoiding collisions with others. And then can you do those two things while still paying attention to her and making her the star of your gaze? And so he goes on, and he says, and women don't even realize they're doing this, but they're checking you to see if you're going to be a good husband, a good man. And he talks about how sometimes we know things inside of ourselves that we don't even put into words and formulas, but we do them. And he goes down this whole, it was a long path, but he goes down this whole path about explaining how some of those things can come out. He says, now, if you can't dance, I'm not saying that you're not a good husband. It's just, you'd be a better husband if you could dance. And he had some humor in there, and it was fun. It was a good conversation, a good thing to kind of explore in your mind in a way that I would guess most people there had never thought about that one activity in life, and that women are now judging men on their ability to be good husbands and providers and navigate them through life through this analogy of dancing. And so it was kind of cool to stop and think about it. And then he moves on into other things, and he chases some rabbits down some trails, but he comes back and ties it all together. And I've listened to preaching and teaching and this type of lecturing my whole life. And I've done this for over 20-something years myself. I navigate through topics kind of like I'm doing today, but I do it on a regular basis. And I take a rabbit trail over here, I pull it back in. I have a little rabbit trail over here, I pull it back in. But we're moving all of this information down the same stream for the same purpose at the end and making it interesting as we go. And he did a great job of keeping his focus. He did a great job. He was not scattered. He's a great speaker. He's a really, really good speaker. One of the better speakers that you'll hear. It may or may not be your style when you listen to him. He has a certain style and a certain cadence that is unique to him. And I do love that. I love that people aren't trying to be someone else. If you know me, you know I'm not trying to be someone else. I'm not trying to be Joe Rogan on a podcast. I don't have no interest in trying to be someone else. And I gravitate towards people who are unique like that, and they're happy being who they are and don't try to be. He's not trying to be a TED Talk kind of a guy, or he's not trying to be somebody else. And so I admire that, and he does a great job at what he does in the style that he does it. But back to the point of what he said during the majority of his talk. I'm going to try to distill it down to one story and try to give you the idea that he was bringing to us. And remember, he's approaching the Bible And this is called We Who Wrestle with God is the name of the tour. I think he's writing a book, or he already has one out on that title, and he may be exploring different topics on how he's writing this. He may be writing a book as he's doing it. I don't know, but that was the title. So I want to just back up real quick and say I don't wrestle with God. It would take someone like him to wrestle with God. I don't have to wrestle with God. My relationship with God doesn't mean that I have to wrestle with him. But I'm also in a different place in my walk with God and my relationship with God than someone who is a psychologist, who is an agnostic, who has the background that he has. I don't wrestle with God. I walk in harmony with God. But I'm going to get to that in just a minute. But that's the title of it, and that's where I was. So he's coming from the other side of the Bible, which again is interesting. I think it's interesting to look at it that way. So he's coming from the other side. He's not coming from the believer side like me. He's coming from the other side. And he tells the story of Moses and the burning bush. Now, this is just crazy to me that someone is going to do that and talk about that. But here's what the whole crux of the speech came down to is at the end, I'll get to the point just as the end that he had here just a second, but listen to this. Moses is drawn to a fire in the desert, a shiny thing. Okay, now take this from an agnostic point of view. Take this from someone that's not trying to preach, not trying to convince you God is real, just as an anecdote to life, okay? And so he says Moses is drawn to a bush, and that bush is on fire. He said, did you know all of you are on fire right now? Not literally, but your metabolism is burning calories, and calories are a measure of heat. And he said, every one of you, hopefully not out of control, but all of you are burning calories right now. To say you're on fire is not too far from the truth as you begin to generate heat, as you digest your food and all of that. He said, could it be that this bush was now contained with ethos or God or this main power source so much so it couldn't contain it. And so it was like metabolism on fire, like it couldn't handle all of the power that was within its branches. It's kind of cool way of looking at it. And he says, and it was shiny and it was caught his attention. So the fact that something caught his attention, and then he stopped to investigate and learn about it. And of course, he takes a lot longer to get through all this than me. He then made the decision to take the path being offered, take the job that now had his interest. And then when he did that this promise came that it would change his life, that it would bring him into new opportunities. At this time, he's just a shepherd taking care of sheep, fending off wolves and prey, keeping his sheep from becoming prey. Now he has an opportunity to step into another role and to do something different with his life, maybe greater with his life, and he becomes a leader. And then his leadership blesses others around them by freeing the slaves. And then he secures a legacy for his offspring by saying yes to the opportunity that came into his life. That's pretty cool because as Christians, we know God was in the bush offering an opportunity to Moses, but that's beside the point. That doesn't take away or add anything to what he's saying. We know, but it doesn't take away his point. Here's what he was saying. Opportunities come into people's lives at random times. And a lot of times it's shiny, it's obvious, it's a burning opportunity, if you will, that comes into your life. And so if you're interested in that opportunity, it takes investigation, it takes learning. And then if you make the decision to follow it through, then now a new path is being offered to you. No longer are you where you were, but now you are able to walk into a new place that you've never been. And with that change in your life, now these new opportunities open up. You can see leadership opportunities in your life. You can stand up and take authority and become someone new, become someone of authority, and then you can become a blessing to others around you, and then your offspring will be blessed, and you will have a legacy to leave. And so it all comes back to the decision that a person makes when given an opportunity in life. And I think that applies to everybody. That applies to Christians. That applies to people who do not believe in Jesus Christ. That belongs to anyone who has an opportunity in life and takes it. And if it's the right opportunity, now, us Christians know that God is the one who provides the opportunity. We believe that God is in the opportunity. God is making the opportunity burn before us and giving us this opportunity. And he tells Moses, I'm going to make sure, I know you're not a good speaker. I'm going to give you someone to help you with that. I'm going to meet your needs. You're going to become the leader. You're going to lead the people. You're going to free my people from the hands of Pharaoh. And we know God is in the middle of everything that we do. But again, that doesn't detract from the point that everyone will have opportunities that come into their life. And if they choose to take those opportunities, those new jobs, those new positions, to reach out and help somebody and grab a mower and mow an elderly neighbor's yard, that you never know when those opportunities come up, what's on the other side of them. For instance, I've been helping now for a month and a half the ranchers in West Texas in the Panhandle. When I started raising money, I had no idea we'd be up over $100,000 raised, and all the tonnage of feed and hay that's gone out, and to work with nationwide and worldwide organizations to build fence and to rebuild these ranches. I didn't know that whenever I just got online and said, hey guys, we got to help. These guys are in trouble. We got to do something. If you go back and watch my original, I was almost in tears myself, experiencing through them the hurt and the loss and the suffering that they were going through. I had no idea that I would be, standing on the stages that I'm going to be on and have been on, been in the paper, been on the news, channels everywhere. I didn't do it for that. I think everyone that knows me knows that. I didn't know that I would be on the front page of the Dallas Morning News in the Saturday edition. Never wanted to be in the newspaper. Never cared. Still really don't. But that leadership raised to the place where, or that opportunity raised to the place where leadership had to come forward, and then now it can be a blessing to others. And then it's just the way, it's a cool way of looking at the way life works and the way that we believe, that I believe God set it all up. Now, Jordan Peterson is coming from the other side saying, I don't know anything about God, but this is really cool. This is how life works. And God says, yeah, that's how I built it. But it still doesn't diminish from the point that he has seen this from the other side. And so I have a daughter, her name's Addison, and she got into in the 8th grade, into the 8th grade, the flag twirling, they call it color guard, the color guard that goes out and spins flags with the band at the football games. And they have their own winter guard, which is a winter competition series that they do well in. And she's now finished her junior year, going into her senior year. And that girl has really found a lot of joy in doing this flag spinning deal. And her mother and I, we support her. We pay her way. We make sure she has what she needs and all of that. But she saw something she was interested in, and she learned about it. She studies. That girl watches more YouTube. She knows, I believe she has watched every YouTube video in the last 3+ years. I believe she's watched every YouTube video on color guard, flag spinning, rifle tossing, saber tossing, swing flags. You see, I'm a color guard dad. She has probably seen every YouTube video on the subject because it interested her. She came to this shiny object in her life and it interested her. So she learned about it. And now she's been the color guard captain and a co-captain. And she'll try out again here in another day or two, a week or so, for the color guard captain position as a senior. And leadership has come out of her. I have watched that girl become a leader. I have watched her lead from the back before she had a position. Now that she has a position, she continues to be loving, kind, direction, leader. I mean, just really cool development, especially for a high school kid. She's just a high school kid. And she's making decisions and helping people and having to navigate personalities. I mean, you got these girls that are teenage girls who, Lord bless them all. That's just that's a pool of emotions right there. And somehow she's figured out ways to navigate leading in that, which is going to be a lifetime skill for her. And so it will go on to be a blessing, not only to her now and those that she's working with, but when she goes into the professional careers that she has in the future and endeavors, she's going to be better prepared because she took this opportunity and learned about it, became good at it. It became a leader in it. And now she's helping others do well. They've actually done, I think I have this right. They've won more number ones, which is first place in UIL as in color guard with the coach that they have now and Addison in the lead with her co-captain. They have done better in the last 2 years than ever in the history of the school. That's a blessing to others. That's really cool. That's amazing. And if that can be true for a high school kid or a middle school kid, really, she started in 8th grade, to get to the place where she's at and lead like she is, this is true for everybody. This is true for you if you're 50. It's true for you if you're 80. You see an opportunity. You're probably not going to run a marathon. You're probably not going to do something extraneous. But that doesn't mean that there's not something that you can see to be involved in and do and be active with and rise to the occasion as you learn about this thing and then let it be part of your fulfillment. I told a guy yesterday on the phone, he said, I'm out of work. For you that don't know, we're going out next week. We've coordinated Reach Out Worldwide, so a worldwide disaster relief organization. It is the late Paul Walker's organization. He started this up before he passed away. His brother took over, and his brother's wife, they took over this effort to help. They help with disasters like tornadoes and hurricanes. They've been to the Hawaii fire twice out there, and they're just helpful people. They're just great folks, and they're going to go out with us. We have a team. They have a team. We've put this effort together to build 5 miles of fence next week, and so it's really, really amazing what has been happening. I had a guy call me yesterday, and he said, "Hey, man, I'm a welder. I want to come out and help build fence, but I'm broke." I said, "Okay." I said, "I'll pay your fuel. I've got donated money. I can cover your fuel. If you'll come bring your rig, we'll put fuel in it while it's here. We'll give you 3 meals a day. We got a nice campsite out here. Pop a tent like the rest of us, and come out and just give of your time, and I'll cover all your expenses because there won't be any expenses other than your fuel." Well, I'd like to, but I'm just too broke. And something, just a boldness came up in me, like a leadership. I said, "I'm going to tell you something, sir. I don't know you. I've never met you. First time talking to you. But I'm going to tell you something. If I were in your shoes and I have started 10 companies, I have done a lot of things in this world. One thing I've never done is gone hungry. I have never been broke. I mean, I've been broke, but I didn't stay broke. Let me tell you what I would do. I'd hook that truck up to that trailer, and I'd take some money and I'd get out here and let me get you a check to cover that fuel coming out. And I'd work all week long for no pay. But I'd also be right there in that camp every night with the welders that are making this happen, that are working, building fence for $17,000 to $20,000 a mile out there right now. There's more fence to be built than probably in the history of the world. And you don't need to be sitting in East Texas while the work's in West Texas. Get up. Come on. I'll pay your way. Get out here, rub shoulders, become friends, and I guarantee you, you won't go right home hungry. You will have more work than you know what to do with. I don't know if he's going to show up or not. I don't know if he's coming to help us or not. I don't know. But I'm telling you, that's the difference in people who see opportunities, learn about them, get involved, become leaders, and then they have something to be a blessing to others with. It's not a mystery. It's a pattern. And I think it's very interesting. Jordan Peterson got my brain thinking. Now, I'm not doing his presentation justice, I promise you. I'm simplifying many of the words he used and many of the phrases he used, and I haven't cussed one time. So I've changed what he had to say, but I think if he were to hear this, he might agree that that was one of the points he was trying to make, is when we see something, we act. And if we act, then a new path becomes available and it becomes activated in front of us. And I told this man who is broke and who is complaining about not having money and wanting to make money this week, I told him, I don't have any money to pay you. I can't pay you to come here, but I can cover your cost. I said, here's the truth, and I'm going to tell you. And this is an old adage that I think we all understand and know. God helps those who help themselves, or God helps them who helps themselves. What does that mean? That means that it is easier for God to bless a person on the move than it is a person who is paralyzed in fear. And I don't mean to start preaching. I don't mean to do that. I just mean to tell you what I'm telling you is if you'll start moving in an opportunity, in a direction, even if it's the wrong direction, it's better to correct. It's easier to correct a wrong direction than it is to get somebody moving that's not moving. There's a scripture that says that he orders the steps of a righteous man, okay? What does that mean? That means it's easier even for God to redirect the steps of a moving target, a moving motion in a man, and a feet that's moving up and down and taking steps, even if it's the wrong direction. It's easier for God to correct a direction than it is for God to get someone moving in a direction. And I think if that's true for God, that's absolutely fact for human beings. I believe that when we are able to see opportunity, we're able to act and move and judge what opportunities are good for us or not. Learn about it, figure it out. But when you do that, now you're able to see new opportunities in your life. So now to the question of whether or not I believe that Jordan Peterson believes in God. I believe he does. After listening to him for 2 hours, Jordan Peterson believes in God. Now, does he follow does he obey? Has he been born again of water and spirit? I don't think so. I wouldn't think so. I mean, he doesn't profess to be a Christian. He doesn't profess to follow the teachings of Jesus Christ. Now, I think he does. I think he understands it, proves out intellectually. I think that there's a part of him who, if he lives long enough and is in place to receive truth, which I believe he has the heart for after listening to him, and more than just last night. I'd love to sit down with Jordan Peterson and have an hour to explain to him how the Old Testament and the New Testament come together, how the God of the Old Testament becomes Jesus Christ in the New Testament and becomes the Holy Spirit in our lives after the ascension of Jesus Christ. I think that I could share with him some truth that he could not dispute, that would be absolutely revolutionary to his thinking. And maybe some others have tried, maybe not. I don't know. I would love to do that. I would love to have that opportunity because there's a lot of potential. But here's how I know that he does believe in God. The question was asked at the end of the night, whether or not, or what is the meaning of life and why does it even matter? That was the question thrown at him in the Q&A, and they ended the night on this. But what is the meaning of life and what does it even matter? And the person who was asking this was an agnostic and was very evolution driven and godless and European from I think London, and just it wasn't my favorite person, but anyway, he wasn't up there very often. He asked a question, and here's what, and I'm gonna paraphrase. Of course, I couldn't record this, so I'm just paraphrasing what I got from what Mr. Peterson said. He said, and he's a psychologist, he understands the responsive brain and actions and activity in humans. And so he says, a person who does not see, now this is paraphrased, not a quote, but a person who doesn't see the point of life, he said, he inherently will see the negative in his existence. And he'll only see the negative. He can't see positive. And he becomes jaded, eventually cynical. And he talks a lot more. He says a whole lot more. But basically, that's where he went with it. And he says, and that existence leads to a life of hell and eventually turns into the pits of hell forever. And then he says, what about miracles? And he says, I can't explain miracles. He said they're inexplainable, but they sure bring hope. I thought that's true. I know even good Christians who've walked with God for their whole life can't explain miracles. So there's nothing wrong with saying I can't explain a miracle. But he says everyone needs hope. Hope comes from the hope of something mattering. Something matters at the end of all of this. Without miracles, we have no hope. Without an ethos, we have no hope. And never once in the whole 2 hours did Mr. Peterson say he was hopeless. So I believe, after listening to him and analyzing what has happened and what he said, that he may not be able to explain it with intellect, but I believe he understands that without God, nothing matters. And without God, there's no point to any of this being. He talks a whole lot more about it. He gave other examples, but I really do believe he won't admit it right now because it's probably better for business for him to keep everybody questioning. And I have opinions on all of that as a pastor. I think nothing is worth missing heaven for. Nothing is worth gambling on my soul. I would never do that. I profess Christ every day. Even though this is a business podcast, I'm talking about Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit indwelling in us and the leading of the Lord in our life. So I can't separate who I am from what I say. But on this topic of philosophy today, I think it's very interesting that a man who has studied from the other side, from the agnostic, godless side of the Bible, and has come to understand some of the principles of the Word of God, Old and New Testament, I believe that he is a believer that God exists and that God is helping us through this broken world and through our broken circumstances and our hurt and our pains. that we still see hope in that. It's not hopeless. And so that's my take on it. I'm not sure if anybody even cares what my take is, but it's my podcast. So I'm doing this today because I feel like somebody suggested it to me this morning. I was on a phone call and they said, you should talk about this on your podcast. Somebody might find it interesting. I hope someone finds it interesting. But here's what I want to tell you today. I want you to take opportunities that come into your life. I hope that you see them for the good opportunities they are. And I hope that those open up new pathways for you to be leaders. And I hope that that also becomes an avenue for you to be a blessing to the people around you, to your family, and ultimately to your legacy. And I think that if you could do that, you will be more fulfilled than somebody that's sitting around wondering what to do. I will close with this. As I was talking to this person on the phone this morning, they said, I used to struggle with depression. And I made the statement, it's hard to be depressed if you have a reason to get up and do something. And I'm not saying that's the cure-all, but I am saying that it is very, very hard to be excited about an opportunity and depressed at the same time. Is it clinically possible? I'm sure someone out there can prove that it is. But in general terms, and I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a certified anything. I'm just saying, if you're excited to get out of bed and you're excited to go take on an opportunity and you've got a new path in front of you and you're doing things and you're helping others, it's very hard to be self-centered into the place where, and so internal to the place where you can't do anything. I think the answer sometimes can always be simply stated, if you'll get up and do something, I think it'll be a better life for you and everybody around you. This episode of The Ranch and Table has been brought to you by our friends at Fate Creamery. It's Fate Creamery is some of the best ice cream you'll ever have. Award-winning, not just locally, but nationally. And one of the best ice cream shops you'll ever walk into. And they've won so many awards. They are the best. And if you're downtown Fate across from the fire station, walk in and use 20%, mention the Ranch and Table podcast and get 20% off. I'll get that out here in a minute. Ice cream done right. It's Fate Creamery. If you don't have my book, you can get my book at leewellsofficial.com, Burger Brilliance, where I talk about the things that we have done at our restaurant and our businesses and the things that have been successful for us, and maybe they'll help you as well. And then, of course, this broadcast is also brought to you by Sterling Tea. Remember to use Wells 20 at checkout at sterlingtea.com, and they will give you 20% off your entire order. I always welcome feedback. I would love for you to say something to me. Stop me in the restaurant. Tell me about it. Send me a Facebook message, an email. Lee Wells Official is the best way to get a hold of me. And if you haven't helped us with the wildfire relief for the ranchers, leewellsofficial.com, go out and click on the wildfire page and send us some money. We'll put it to use. If you have given, consider doing it again, and we'll send all that right out there to help them. And so thank you so much for being with me today. And this episode, I know it's been different, but I hope it's enjoyable. I'm Lee Wells on the Ranch and Table podcast. Till next time, we say adios, farewell, goodbye, good luck, and so long.